Imagine you are standing on the deck of a massive 100-foot sailing ship in the middle of the freezing Atlantic Ocean. The wind is howling, the waves are crashing. But there is no one steering the wheel. You walk down into the crew's quarters. A pipe is sitting on a desk next to a perfectly intact sewing machine. In the galley, there is enough food and fresh water to feed a crew of 10 for over 6 months. In the cargo hold, 1,700 barrels of highly valuable industrial alcohol. Not a single drop has been stolen. The ship isn't sinking. It hasn't been attacked by pirates. But every single man, woman, and child on board has vanished into thin air. The only clue left behind? A single thick rope tied to the back of the ship, cleanly snapped in half and trailing down into the black abyss of the ocean. What were they running from? Welcome to the archives of blood. Today, we dive into the darkest waters of maritime history to uncover the ultimate locked room mystery of the sea. The ghost ship, Mary Celeste. To understand the sheer impossibility of this mystery, we have to go back to November 7th, 1872. The setting: Pier 50 in New York City. The Mary Celeste was preparing to sail for Genoa, Italy. But this ship already had a dark reputation. Years earlier, it was originally named the Amazon. On its very first voyage, its original captain suddenly fell ill and died. Later, it was driven ashore in a brutal storm. Seeking a fresh start, the owners renamed it the Mary Celeste. The man placed in charge was Captain Benjamin Briggs. He wasn't some reckless sailor. He was a devout, highly respected veteran of the sea. Joining him on this voyage was his wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, and a hand-picked, highly experienced crew of 7 sailors. Below deck, they loaded 1,701 barrels of raw industrial alcohol. They set sail into the Atlantic. For weeks, everything seemed perfectly fine, until December 4th. Nearly a month later, another merchant ship, the Dei Gratia, was sailing roughly 400 miles east of the Azores. The captain of this ship, David Morehouse, was actually a personal friend of Benjamin Briggs. Through the heavy ocean fog, Morehouse's crew spotted a ship drifting erratically. Its sails were partially torn. It was yawing wildly in the wind, completely out of control. Captain Morehouse grabbed his spyglass. He recognized the hull immediately. It was his friend's ship. They hoisted flags to signal them. No response. They shouted across the freezing water. Absolute silence. Fearing a medical emergency, or worse, Morehouse ordered a small boarding party to row over and investigate. As these men climbed the wooden ladder and stepped onto the wet deck of the Mary Celeste, the silence hit them like a physical weight. What they found inside made absolutely no logical sense. When you find an abandoned ship in 1872, you expect a gruesome scene. But the Mary Celeste was perfectly seaworthy. The pumps were in perfect working order. The men walked into the crew's quarters. The sailors' raincoats and heavy rubber boots were still hanging on the hooks. If you are abandoning a ship in winter, you grab your cold weather gear. But they left it behind. In the captain's cabin, Sarah Briggs's sewing machine sat on the desk. 2-year-old Sophia's toys were neatly placed on the bed. The boarding party checked the ship's logbook. The last entry was dated November 24th, 10 days earlier. It didn't mention a storm, an illness, or any panic. It simply recorded their position. But then the investigators noticed 3 terrifying details. First, the ship's navigational instruments, the compass and sextant, were missing. Second, the ship's single small lifeboat was completely gone. And third, tied tightly to the back railing of the ship was a thick, heavy rope, trailing off into the dark waves, cleanly snapped. The entire crew willingly got into a tiny rowboat in the middle of the ocean, leaving their safe fortress behind. The crew of the Dei Gratia sailed the ghost ship to Gibraltar to claim salvage money. But the British authorities were deeply suspicious. The Attorney General believed it was a cold-blooded murder. He accused the crew of the Dei Gratia of attacking the Mary Celeste, murdering Captain Briggs, his family, and the crew just to steal the ship and claim the massive reward. To back up his claim, he pointed to strange marks on the bow of the ship that looked like axe cuts, and he found a sword in the captain's cabin with dark red stains on it. It was the perfect true crime narrative, but there was a massive problem. Forensic science proved the red stains on the sword weren't blood. It was just rust. And the axe cuts on the wood, they were naturally caused by the swelling of the timber and the brutal movement of the ocean. What's more, nothing of value was missing. If it was pirates or murderous sailors, why did they leave behind expensive equipment, personal gold, and 1,701 barrels of alcohol? The court dropped the murder charges, leaving the world with a terrifying question. If no one killed them, why did they jump? Over the last century, people have blamed giant squids or alien abductions. But the chilling theory that makes the most sense lies in the cargo. 9 of those barrels were made of porous red oak. The alcohol leaked, filling the hold with invisible explosive fumes. Picture this. Captain Briggs smells the choking fumes. He knows that a single spark from a pipe or static electricity could turn the entire ship into a floating bomb. In a moment of pure panic, he orders his family and crew into the tiny lifeboat. He ties it to the Mary Celeste with a thick rope, planning to wait at a safe distance until the fumes clear. But a sudden squall hits. The massive sails catch a violent gust of wind. The heavy ship surges forward. The rope goes tight, and then it snaps. Imagine sitting in that tiny, freezing boat. You watch in horror as your only hope for survival silently drifts away into the thick fog, leaving you alone in the black water, hundreds of miles from land. The Mary Celeste didn't kill her crew. The fear of what might happen did. Do you believe the alcohol theory? Or is the ocean hiding something darker? Let me know below. Subscribe to the Archives of Blood. Until next time, stay out of the fog.